Alrighty, good morning, my friends. It is Thursday, February 13th, 2025. Really good lesson from yesterday to look at here. I do have some people who say, hey, I can't just come into a level and just buy it, right? I want to talk about capturing a market rotation when you don't actually nail the low itself, right? So it's very hard for many traders, and we're going to go back here to the open yesterday and take a look at this. So the market open right here. Let's go ahead and throw our horizontal or our vertical line up here. So that's wrong button. So right here is where the market opened, okay? And yesterday we were selling off in the pre-market. Got a big sell-off there from the news event, which I believe was CPI. And then we started to come on down into here and came down into the ultimate level that led to the first market bounce, right? Coming into the open. So when the market was pulling back into this major roadmap level, interestingly enough, the low of the morning, 60.23, they broke through it by just about 2 points, 2.5 points, and then ripped out from there. So a lot of people will say, hey, well, as we're selling off here, I'm not just going to blindly buy right here and hope that it's going to hold, right? I could have blindly bought there and here, and yeah, this one actually got a bounce out of it. But outside of that, there's no real strong conviction to buy a level in a strong downtrend. So you don't have to. What you can wait for is a number of things to line up. So I'm going to kind of teach you guys today what I saw in the market as everything opened yesterday and why I went ahead and got long where I got long in the first half hour of the open. So how do I set this up? As we were pulling back, and actually let me look back to, give me one moment here. As the market was selling off yesterday, remember that this right here is 50% of last week. We know that that's a very, very kind of, there's a tug of war going on between either side of that area, right? Staying above 50% of the week before is a good thing for our bullish perspective. On the other side of it there, if the bears could pull price down through 50% of last week, it was the first sign that we potentially could get that deeper pullback. So what happened here is they came right into it. You actually got a long in the middle of the night, or actually right after the news event, you got a long right off that level, basically to the tick, right? But then it kind of meandered back through. Then we started pushing a little bit below it. And yes, they came into that next major roadmap level where if you see here once, twice, 3 times, and a 4th time, they came right to it to the tick. But of course, they had to kind of peek on through there, maybe take some of those stops out, and then that was it, never came back. So what gave me the conviction yesterday to go ahead and try to enter after the bounce, right? So I didn't put an entry in right here and get filled, and even if I put an entry there out of the open, it didn't come in and fill me there, right? So I would have missed out on this low. Now, if the market came in yesterday morning and it was bouncing off our roadmap level here, which again is a major area of resistance as price is pushing up into it, we also have the 200, right? Anybody who's been here for just a couple days should already be very familiar with this type of setup. We've got our roadmap level. We also have the descending 200 moving average in what looks to be a heavy market. And so if they're not going to hold from right there, more than likely that's going to be the beginning of a higher high, right, compared to the morning swing high. And that could be the beginning of a change in trend. Now that's just looking at price in general, not incorporating all the other things I look at, right? So we came into a major level. We started to find support, right? In fact, again, to the tick here, 4 tests right to it, 1 little shy peek through, and then they came back and found that support right after the market opened. So there was something going on in the market right around our roadmap level, not surprising. When they came back out, if this was going to be a heavy market, And you can even see it was a very, very aggressive sell-off. And then all of a sudden, we started to kind of peter out and just kind of inch into these slightly lower lows. And it started to actually look, like maybe that could be the beginning of a bottom. It might take a little bit more time for them to test the low, maybe make a slightly lower low for the bounce, but it started to look like it was evening out, right? Doesn't mean anything really, because again, they could have came right in to the 200 in the roadmap level and then continued going. What I saw and what I recognized from this low that gave me the conviction to go ahead and jump in on these more aggressive entries is a couple of things here. First of all, obviously, major roadmap level on the pullback. Second of all, we're testing right into 50% of the previous week. We know that's a very, very important area of the chart. And a lot of times we see a pullback right into that area only to get a bounce. And they kind of bounce to the tick, but then you can see still a little bit of trepidation there before the bulls regain their strength. So what did I see down here? Let's go over to the 3-minute. And I haven't really talked about this in our reviews as often, but as we were selling off and creating that slightly lower low into the next major roadmap level, look at this major divergence that formed in the market. Let's get rid of the markers here. Right there, my friends. This is before the market opened, 9 a.m. Eastern, right? 9:12 Eastern. We're already starting to create the very pattern off a major roadmap level that you typically see at the beginning of an attempt to bounce, right? And they could have come up right into that roadmap level we were just looking at and failed off, and that was it. Could have kept going lower, but that is the very pattern off a roadmap level that I want to see for a potential change in trend. Now, to add icing to the cake here, don't necessarily need it, but honestly, the more I watched my 15-minute, I've been kind of toying with a 10-minute and a 15-minute, and I think I like this 15-minute setup because as they're coming in to the major roadmap level down here, we've got potential divergence on the 15-minute as well, right? So it comes in. You can see from the last swing low back here to the new major swing low, there's obvious divergence going on. So the 15-minute was agreeing with my 3-minute chart, and that was really the pattern I love. So then I went to my short time frames here, and I told myself, well, if the bulls can get through the 200 and the first roadmap level here and pop through it to create a new high compared to the swing at the open, I think there's a pretty good bet to get long right off the roadmap level and the 200 to see if we could get the pop. Now, it was not just the price action itself, but as we pulled back into the 200 and our roadmap level, this is what I saw in terms of divergence. I saw we were way down here. Price was way up here. And I know I have edge on my levels. I know I have some edge off the 200. I had some divergence forming. And yeah, it could have pulled right through and I could have got my first stop out of the day, right? I'm always prepared for that. But I did think that this was, seeing this 3-minute pattern, and let's bring it over to right when the market opened here. We started to see that, right? So as we're popping through this roadmap level, 31 here, whatever, 32, coming out of it, that's what I saw right there in the 3-minute. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get aggressive here. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to put an entry here because I'm starting to see divergence. And then as we pulled back into the FMA here, with this huge divergence here, I went ahead and added in and got some more contracts on. And so right out of the open here, this is the open. This is about 5 minutes after the open. I was in with no, I think I took 2 or 3 ticks of risk. I was in with no risk, maybe 1 tick through, and I was able to take some really good profit, right? Then when the market pulled back into the 200 with our roadmap level here, I decided, and then again, seeing all this divergence as the market was starting to pull right into that area, you can see it here. It was like a little slightly lower low with a higher RVI. Even if it was equal, right? We've pushed down significantly on price, an equal low. This was actually a higher low. We were testing it. I put my entry on. and it went right through. And I got my first stop out of the day right there. So this is just kind of a nice little lesson as to how I'm reading the market and trying to capture these market rotations and then get in. Because I can just buy a level, but I can also wait for everything to line up. My 3-minute, my 15-minute agreeing with the 3-minute in terms of potential divergence from that area. And then I start to see things like this happen with my moving averages, with the breakout, and then with some local divergence for the entry. And that's kind of how you're going to capture your market rotations, probably the safest way to capture them. And honestly, I got a little lucky here because we do know how often the market will make a push, and then we will get a deeper pullback, maybe into 50%, and then pop out. So there's always a possibility I could have been stopped out. But again, I know that there are areas in the chart where I can enter, take on extremely limited risk, and could capture the rotation that leads to another 10, 20, 50 point push. So that's kind of the lesson for today. I got stopped out here and I said, I'm good. I made pretty good money to the upside here. I got a stop out and then I walked away. So that's how my morning went. But as you can see, you had so many other good opportunities. And I think I mentioned this in the Twitch chat room yesterday that, man, there were just so many picture perfect opportunities here yesterday. Especially this right here, as the market is starting to reject, get back through VWAP, get the crossover of the 200. First test of the 200 right there. Look at that divergence. Look at how extreme RVI had pushed up as it was right into the 200 there. And then the icing on the cake, the double top with the big divergence. So if you didn't take the first test and you kind of went, oh man, I missed it, and it started pulling into the FMA, that second pop, maybe if you don't have to just blindly sell the high. We can zoom in here and look at the details. It made the double top, the divergence formed, and then that first candle started to dive. So if you wanted to jump in, your entry was somewhere around 43 and your stop was at 45 for 2 points. The 2-point stop targeting down into the next row map level at 32 for a 10-point sell-off, and you almost got it. So you got your scalps off. Hopefully you got your 2, 3, 4, 5 pointers off because it did go 8 points. And then it popped out again. So a beautiful opportunity. My larger target would have been just in front of the row map level. Would have missed the larger target, but as you guys know, 2, 4, 5 point winners in a row. That's over 10 points with very limited risk. So then it pops out, and what do you know? The high around 1030, bearish divergent. That's not a bearish divergence, but a test into the row map level that leads to the next pullback. And if you were watching this and you saw this pullback happening, you did have that opportunity to short off the back end of the FMA, where once again you get this kind of double top scenario right off the row map level to the tick. So it's the same in height, slightly different on the RVI here. It's very, very, very slight. 45.17, 45.2, so very close. But that would have been another area in the chart where you know you're wrong with very limited risk, but this could be a 7-8 point trade back to the 200 moving average. So there was that, and then you got a double bottom, big bullish divergence on the double bottom at the 200. In this case, this is one of those scenarios where we miss out by a tick or two. And then let's just zoom this up because we've spent a lot of time here on that review. What do you know? We come up to the next major row map level. You get a big bearish divergence off that high. And then there you go. You got your short opportunities on the pullback. There's the hold of the back end of the row map level. But then it comes in, and notice what happens. It holds the next row map level for the bounce. Now this right here, another bearish divergence in the scheme of this pullback, could have been an opportunity, or you could have waited for the break lower and then entered in on one of these bearish divergences off the fast moving average, which you got there, you got there. You didn't get it here, but you did get the tag off the FMA. And then as you can see, it kept going. So some really good, and notice This is a zoomed out picture of the morning. We push from the roadmap level here all the way up. Well, came to the roadmap level here for the pullback, but came all the way up to here to pull back, and then held the 200, and then came all the way up to here and pulled back. And what are those? Those are our roadmap levels. So again, we nailed nearly every rotation of the day. Pulled back, you got even a parry again right off the 45 roadmap level, got below it, held it for the pullback, got above it, held it for the bounce, and then we came up at the end of the day, and there is that textbook rotation right off the holy orange power level with bearish divergence for some good opportunities to the downside. So you can just see back and forth all day, roadmap level, high, roadmap level, major low, roadmap level, major high, roadmap level, pulls back, and then you can see this was a real mother yesterday, 60-70 half, came up to it, failed off of it earlier in the day, and then once we got above it, actually came up to it, failed to the tick off of it, and then they came in once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. You could have traded that level with very limited risk and made nearly 10 points to the upside every time. Okay, and then at the end of the day, again, we peter back, kind of gets below this level, holds below it, and then even holds below it back at the end of the day there, but then pops out, and then what happens? Trouble right at 79 again. So that was it, my friends, at the very last couple minutes of the day there. As you can see, shorting 70 half and buying 70 half from the upside gave you some more scalps to finish your day out. That brings us here into the overnight session, where we are now meandering back and forth inside of the same chop that we've been trading inside of for the last 2 or 3 days. So not much to mention in here. Obviously, the high of the overnight session pushes right up into our roadmap level for the failure, comes down, gets below the roadmap level to kiss it and pull back, and then there's that beautiful bullish divergence off our unofficial roadmap level around 55.75. That gave us the push up, and now you can see just a whole lot of chop inside of here, albeit still holding the roadmap level almost perfectly on all these pullbacks. So that is our review and our lesson for the day. Let's go ahead and jump up to the